there, thanks for joining me. Today I have this layout for you based on a mood board by Vicki Parker. It's part of the National Scrapbook Day challenges for Bramble Fox 2021. I'm a bit late with this, but better late than never. And as you can see, I am going to use Vicki Boutin's Color Study for this layout. It's just arrived here in the UK at the time I created this. There weren't very many embellishments at the time because I think they were delayed, so I kind of go with my own thing. And with every new collection, I am a bit slow about actually breaking into it, so I do not use a lot of the this one because it was my first layout. So I have used a Bramble Fox stencil there. I think this is stencil number 8, which actually comes with stars and hearts. So this was my test one, which was just half a stencil. But the full Bramble Fox stencil actually comes with stars and hearts, which is kind of handy. So I've just laid down a bit of colour at the back, and that was broken china. And I'm just going to add a little bit of paint. Using a Posca pen. It wasn't the best. Sometimes I just have difficulty getting good splatters there. But if you wanted to recreate this layout, you could definitely use just inks, probably a lot easier. And you won't see a lot at the top here because my idea is I'm going to fussy cut or trim the paper, the starburst, as I'm sure most of us will, because it's so gorgeous. And I'm just going to cut out the each individual starburst colour and see where I go from there. So I'll just deconstruct it and then reconstruct it, missing out a few bits and pieces, just so you can see the background. Now, I don't know if you've watched Vicki's video or her lives for creating these. I mean, she is incredible, isn't she? So it's definitely worth trying to do one yourself, but this just saves so much time. So now we've got all those done, I just need to spam those up a bit because you can't just take something and have them as they are. Bit of a faff, I think. And I think what would look good actually is if they're not exactly how they came out, because I could have just used the background paper as is otherwise. So I'm definitely trying to make them look a bit different to the original. So I'm going to ink the edges because I want them nice and defined, because later on I will be adding some stitching. Excuse me, it's early morning here and I've probably got a croaky voice. Some of them are edging in black. I do prefer Distress ink, the original Distress ink, to Distress Oxide. I don't know how you find it, but I find the Distress Oxide black, the black soot, isn't black enough. It's kind of like a grey colour when it dries, so I do tend to use my Distress ink for that. And I'm just using a finger dauber, is still my favourite for doing the edges. So now I've done all of the edges. I cut that little bit out, it was getting a bit dull, wasn't it? I'm now going to just construct the top half of the layout. So as I mentioned before, I'm really I don't want a nice uniform look, so kind of put them back on the page in a kind of a random-ish order. And I think one intention is to mount the whole background onto some blue card, some navy blue card, just to make it pop. So There's kind of a method to my madness. And I just feel like that would just give it an extra edge, really. Because I feel as though if I put everything back as it was and it was just square, it would just look like the original paper. So that's where I'm going, really. As I say, I only had a few embellishments with this at the time of making it. I don't know why American crafts are having such problems with supply and supplying their shops and so on, but yeah, it's been a bit poor. I guess maybe it's the after effects of COVID, or I don't know. I suppose we are in a pandemic, aren't we? So all I'm going to do is, you can see I'm roughly put the colour background that I'm going to have underneath, and I'm going to have some of those starbursts hanging off the edge so that they go onto the background. And I am just going to stick that down, and it's not going to be straight on, so it's at a jaunty angle. But I'm just going to trim it back down to that navy card at the back. So you could use black. I think I'd run out of black, but I do like the navy. I'm a bit of a fan of the dark colours sometimes. I'm saying it's navy, it could be black, isn't it? But I'm pretty sure it's navy. Oh, just look at that. I've had to use a whole sheet of paper for that one. So off camera, I actually stitched those sunburst sunbeams, whatever they're called, just to add a little bit more depth and detail. But what I quite often like to do is, you know, rather than just carry on with one thing, I like to let it percolate a little bit and then decide what to do. So I think with all my layouts, I do like to add a little bit dimension if I can. So my thinking is I am going to cut out some of these butterflies just to give it that dimension. I know Vicky likes butterflies, so I think I was going to try and find some from a previous collection, but yeah, I think these will do really well. I am not a huge mixed media person, as you know, and I do think when I look at some of the backgrounds on the papers, I get really scared of them because Vicky is so good with colour, and you know, some of them are really messy, but I think, yeah, once you break things down, I think I find them a little bit less scary. And it's definitely something, I mean, I do love her collections, but I find them a bit intimidating just because that's just me. I do tend to be a little bit more clean or organised. No, what's the right word? I'm not sure. Anyhow, I am going back in now with another stencil. I should have checked the stencil numbers, but I think this is number 1. I know it was one of the early ones, but it's one I'll keep using again and again because I love the individual arrows on this. They're great for borders, for adding a bit of detail, as you can see here. It just tends to be me, really. I think I'm more geometric than I am random and messy. So again, I am going back in with the Distress ink, Black Soot, rather than the Oxide, just because it is much darker, I think. I'm just adding a few, I just wanted to add a bit of detail to those sunbursts, you know, just for a little bit more texture. And really, I guess you could, you know, skip this stage because, you know, they are pretty anyway, the original papers. It had a lot of texture. And I'm just really trying to add a little bit more depth to them, that's all. So So I'm just trying to work out the placement of my photos. So if you were doing this, you could go with one big photo, obviously. You could do one landscape photo even. I think it's quite a versatile design so that you can really, yeah, you could switch that about very easily. And that's the bottom half of the original paper, which was the inspiration for the dots that I had put on my background. So I think it would be nice to tie all that together. So I'm just going to work out what else to put at the bottom there, and I feel like it needs another layer of interest. So the Colour Story collection also came with some stamps, and I'm going to use some of those flower stamps from the collection, just to add a little bit of depth and detail. I know Vicky's excellent at adding layers and creating more interest that way with different mediums and so on. So I'm being inspired just to do that myself with some of the flowers. And I could actually colour those in, but I think with everything that's going on, I think the black is just perfect. It just adds that depth and detail, no bulk, but it's not going to detract. It's definitely going to be in the background. So now to the best bit, which is working out the embellishments. And in Bramble Fox we have these banners and tabs. They've got lovely etch detail and absolutely perfect for just adding a little bit of something to a page. You know, if you don't want a big title, it's absolutely perfect. And then looking at things, I really felt like I needed a bit more pink. The pink had got a bit lost, or it hadn't been tied together. So I've just used some acrylic paint there. That is a Dilutions paint, but again, if you've got any acrylic paint, that would be perfect. And I don't know if you saw there, I used my pencil, a rubber on the back of a pencil, just as a stamp to add those little dots. And it was just enough, you know, because I splattered with the paint earlier, but it got a bit lost, so there wasn't really enough pink for my liking. And off camera, I also added a little punch detail at the bottom right hand side, just to give that edge a bit more weight. Look at that, sticking down already. Woohoo! I'm the world's slowest scrapper. So when the kids were little, we used to go off to National Trust properties, which if you're not from the UK, it is a charity organisation that runs loads of stately homes and outdoor spaces, and it's a fabulous, it's just really truly tremendous. I mean, they really look after the heritage for the UK. And we used to go there every weekend. If the weather was nice, the kids could run around, climb trees, and just be proper kids. So we were so lucky to have one close by to us. So I think this is definitely a Sunday, because that would be our favourite thing to do on a Sunday. Shame have to grow up and then grow out of these things. So I mentioned earlier about the banners and tabs that are in the Bramble Fox shop. You get tabs with months and days on. There's a set for months, one for days. And there's also a set of just journal words. And I've got different colours. And we have some new ones, so released in May. I released some new designs and colour combos. They are one of my favourite things, I think, because they're just great for just popping here and there. So say if you don't have a big title, it's great for just adding that little bit of detail. think tabs are one of my favourite things. So I've just got out my tab punch there, and I like to just add that, you know, the dates using a tab punch. I just add a little staple just to bring that together. So I'm just thinking about the title and whether to use something from the thickers. There's some great bulk titles on here, but I will go with this favourite from I think that's the March Fox box. I might have designed it to go with this collection. That might be a thing, but it will appear in the shop eventually. It's just been a little bit busy in the shop of late, so that is definitely one to go in at some point in the future. And that about wraps it up. So I am going to leave you with the close-ups. I really hope you liked the layout. It's difficult to be different with such a bold paper, and the collection's been so popular, so hopefully I've managed a little bit of that. And you can see I added a few extra perspectives here and there, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Take care, bye.